Welcome back, everybody. Today, we are going to be diving into some English expressions
Yeah.
that might seem pretty straightforward at first glance,
hmm
but they actually have these almost like little hidden meanings,
Right.
especially for someone who's uh, learning the language.
Absolutely.
We've got some great examples,
Yeah.
and they cover all kinds of different areas like tech and food and just um, everyday life. So, uh, are you ready to unlock some linguistic secrets?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay, let's start with this one. I'm afraid to open this door too hard.
Mhm.
I can imagine this like really throwing someone off.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit dramatic.
It does. It sounds kind of like a horror movie.
Right.
But what's interesting is that the speaker isn't like actually terrified.
No, not at all.
It's more about expressing caution or hesitation.
Exactly.
It's like almost like saying, I'm being really careful because I don't want to break something.
Right. Or damage something.
Right.
Yeah. It's like when we say I'm dying of laughter.
Yeah.
Nobody's actually,
Right.
kicking the bucket
Right.
from chuckling too hard. It's just a way of emphasizing the feeling.
Right, exactly. Now, this next one really caught my eye because you could scroll the screen sideways. It seems like such a simple thing to say.
Yeah.
But I think it really shows how our language has adapted to technology.
It does. It does. If you think about it, scrolling used to be, with those old paper scrolls.
Right.
And now we're scrolling on screens, and we even say scroll sideways,
Yeah.
so the meaning has definitely kind of expanded
Exactly.
as technology has advanced.
And speaking of tech speak, how about this one? How do you recognize the text in an image and convert it to editable text? That's so incredibly specific to our digital age.
It really is, yeah. It shows that, we've had to develop a way to talk about these tasks that were unimaginable, just a few decades ago.
Right.
Now we can recognize text and change it digitally.
Right.
And it's so common now that, we have these concise ways of talking about it.
Okay, shifting gears a little bit. Let's talk about some everyday tasks.
Yeah.
Once the tasks are done, just cross them off. It's almost like a visual thing.
It is, yeah. Like you can imagine somebody with a pen and paper and a to-do list.
Right, exactly.
And crossing things off. It's like that feeling of satisfaction.
Yes.
Of completing something.
Right.
And making progress, even if we're not using a pen and paper anymore.
And then we have this one, then it took me to this page, which is so relatable in the world of websites and, filling out online forms and stuff.
I know. It's like that feeling of being, like being taken through this digital space.
Right.
Almost like the website or the form is leading you somewhere.
Yeah.
We use take in a similar way with transportation too. Like,
Yeah.
this train will take you to the city center.
Right, exactly.
It's all about that journey and destination.
Now, this one feels a little direct to me.
Okay.
Empty the rest, please.
Mm-hmm.
It could, depending on the tone, it could come across as a little abrupt, don't you think?
I think you're right. It really depends on the context, on how you say it,
Yeah, right.
It could be just a simple request,
Right.
but the tone of voice can really make the difference between like a polite instruction or a command,
Right.
So just think about how you say it. If you say it calmly, it's going to sound much different than if you say it
Right.
with a sharp edge to your voice.
Okay, let's move on to a few social situations.
Yeah.
We have the person sitting opposite me. It's a very basic spatial description,
Right.
but I think there's some subtle differences in how we use it,
There are. Like, you could also say across from me, but opposite just sounds more natural.
Right, it does.
In everyday conversation. And it's that little nuance that might make somebody sound more like a native speaker.
Now let's talk about this one. Staple food. This one feels like it goes beyond just a definition.
It does. It does. I mean, every culture has its own staple foods.
Right.
It's the ingredients that are essential to the cuisine and often have, historical and social significance.
Right.
Like, for example, rice is a staple food in a lot of Asian cultures.
Right.
Bread in Europe, corn in the Americas.
Yeah.
What would you say is a staple food in your culture?
Well, thinking about it, I'd probably say rice.
Rice. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And it's interesting because, it connects to a sense of place and identity, you know? And it's fascinating how something so simple, you know, like staple foods can tell you a lot about a culture.
Switching gears a little bit, going to the professional world, we have email etiquette, which feels almost like a minefield sometimes these days.
I know. There's so many rules.
It can be, yeah.
Email etiquette is really about those unwritten rules.
Right.
You know, that can really, they're important.
Right.
For professional communication.
Yeah.
And it's things like, being concise and using appropriate greetings.
Right.
And of course, perfect grammar and spelling.
Yeah, nobody wants to send an email that ends up on one of those worst email fails lists, right?
Exactly.
Okay, let's wrap up with these last two here. First up, we have this one. I'll organize everything in an email and send it over to you, so it'll be easier for you to decide which ones you need to ask the client for and which ones you don't.
Wow.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
But it's super helpful.
It is. It is. I think it shows somebody taking initiative.
Right.
And really trying to help their colleague.
Right.
To make things easier.
Yeah.
It's that proactive attitude. That's really appreciated in the workplace.
And finally, this one has a little bit of mischief to it. It's me who passed my sore throat onto her, but I don't admit it.
Oh, yeah. I love that one. It's so relatable.
It is.
It's that feeling of guilt.
Right.
When you accidentally spread germs,
Right.
Everybody's been there.
Right, exactly.
But I don't admit it,
Yeah.
It's so funny because it's that little voice we all have inside.
Yeah.
That's trying to avoid the blame.
That's trying to get away with it, right?
Yes, exactly.
So there you have it. A deep dive into some seemingly simple English expressions, but we've uncovered some pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, I think so too. We talked about culture, communication, and even a little bit of human nature.
Right, exactly. So remember, language is always changing. So paying attention to these everyday phrases can really help you understand how people think and interact with each other.
Absolutely.
Now, here's something to think about. What are some common expressions in your native language that might have hidden meanings?
Yeah.
Those little cultural nuances that might make a non-native speaker kind of scratch their head,
Right.
Think about it. You might be surprised at what you discover.
Definitely.
Until next time.
See you later.